My name is Alessandro de Carli. I'm the co-founder at Acurast. Just to keep it very short, Acurast is a protocol that upcycles compute from mobile devices, where everybody can basically, kind of take their little champion that they have in the pocket and then dedicate it to this network as a compute unit. Cool. Now, why don't we start by having everyone introduce themselves, and we'll also set the stage for the actual topic.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lukas. I'm part of the founding team of Nillon, and our main focus there is the moment to source, curate, support companies as they start building our network. What is Nillon? Nillon is what we call a blind computation network. Blind computation basically means that there is a decentralized network of nodes who can store and process sensitive data, private data, high-value data, as we call it, without ever seeing anything about the underlying information. And the way that works is these nodes are essentially leveraging privacy-enhancing technologies, such as, for instance, multi-party computation, but also others, to essentially offer the best solution for a relevant use case, offered by an SDK that enables developers to tap into these privacy-enhancing technologies and to democratize access to them. We saw that 3 years ago. We are currently in testnet stage. We see a range of builders that start leveraging the network from AI, DeFi, identity use cases, self-sovereignty use cases, and the likes. And excited to talk about DePIN today and see where we go with the conversation.
And so are we.
My name is Igor, and I'm co-founder and CTO of Gateway FM. We are all things infrastructure, especially related to ZK. We also are core contributors to Polygon ZK VM / Polygon CDK stack in a very meaningful manner. We're just running a lot of different ZK related technologies, a lot of validators, and also doing some R&D on applied ZK.
Hi everyone, my name is Anthony. I am the head of research and innovation at iExec. We are a kind of old protocol. We started in 2016, and our mission is to provide tools for builders to create applications to own, monetize, and protect data. We stand actually in the DePIN narrative from the beginning because we had this marketplace for computing resources, and we've realized over the time that one critical aspect of this platform to work was to actually protect privacy and data confidentiality. So right now my job is to leverage all of the technologies that exist around trusted execution environments, Ethereum, smart contracts, of course, but also newer technologies like MPCs or layers proofs to make all of these technologies accessible to developers. Hi.
It's good that you're finally.
All good. And so we package this as a platform for developers. We have developer tools that are small sets of APIs with simple functions like, protect data, grant access to application, revoke access to applications. And the important thing is, of course, that if you revoke access to something, then it is not technically possible to just go around your back and do anything else than what you wanted. And we can build monetization strategies around all of this.
Cool. Mark, why don't you introduce yourself as well? You just came just in time. Fantastic. That's timing.
Yeah, thank you. Good to be here. Mark, co-founder of Aethir. At Aethir, we build decentralized GPU infrastructure for gaming AI companies. Effectively, we're a DePIN. The difference between maybe us and other DePINs in the space is we're 100% enterprise grade. Every piece of equipment that's contributed to our network sits in a data center or is connected to enterprise grade network infrastructure. And that gives us really cool capability to provide services to, all the biggest tech companies in the world, right? We meet their enterprise grade SLAs and we're, scaling rapidly at the moment to serve more and more companies in the AI space.
Cool. Perfect. So let's dive right into the topic. By maybe also taking a look at this day and age and why data sovereignty is relevant at all, and then maybe also put it into context of decentralized system, why it is relevant in that context specifically.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think, if you look at the way data is stored, is processed today, then it's pretty obvious that there are significant centralization vectors, right? We are trusting our most sensitive or most personal high-value data into very few companies in the world that can range from messages to, high-value confidential information on our business side. And of course, with that, there comes a level of security risk, right? Ultimately, sometimes there are single points of failures, which are risky, put our sensitive data at risk in its spotlight. And DePIN is essentially a lot, but one of the things it's trying to achieve is democratizing access, on the one hand, for users to become infrastructure providers, and at the same time opening up new use cases that otherwise would potentially not be viable from an economic standpoint. That now becomes possible. But in this case, what you're able to do is you can store your data across a range of node operators globally that you can determine who they are and how you want to store it across how many nodes, where they are based geographically, and that gives you a sense of control that we didn't really have before the arrival of crypto, before the arrival of DePIN. And you take a step back at the beginnings of crypto more broadly, it's very obvious that's how it started, right? Bitcoin ultimately wanted to eliminate intermediaries to give you control with your key to your financial assets. And Ethereum then expanded the design principles for that for data more broadly beyond Bitcoin transactions. And DePIN now is touching into a lot of real-world use cases, physical use cases where a lot of the data is very sensitive, but the principle is the same. How can we get back control? How can we make sure we determine who we share our data with, where it's stored, who can read it, who has permission to potentially run programs on top of it. And I think that's the central mission here. And that's why this is pretty exciting, because it's really a flip in terms of how we think about, control overall.
Yes, please, Igor.
Yeah, and we have a little bit different perspective, like we're focused much more on the organizations and not individuals. And I mean, the question of like data sovereignty with organizations is also very important, especially like as soon as it's a little bit bigger organization or something. And we totally see this, that for instance, when we provision some kind of a system for like maybe it's an L2 or some other for a bigger organization, they want to have control over the data, like as an organization, because I mean, we had this very interesting kind of a double flip. So at first, like enterprises, for instance, they always had like basically data sovereignty because they stored everything like way before the cloud, right? They stored everything locally in local data centers. Everybody had the servers, the guys who were running like stuff like this. Then we flip like almost 180. So there's like Amazon, Google, yada yada. So every organization doesn't really like own, apart from this organization, doesn't really own anything. Like they just completely like outsource it. And now it looks like they try to come a little bit back to this one, and even with like a blockchain solutions, like again with L2s and something, they want to keep their own copies of data. They want to have control. They want to have like to understand who can access it, like who is visible, like what kind of the privacy stuff around this, what kind of access control metrics are there, and again where they're stored. So I think with this, I mean, I'm looking at DePIN not as like maybe fully like decentralized and permissionless, but in terms of, let's say, we provision it more like we can do it on the premises of the company that wants us to run some software, or at least like not in AWS, GCP, and other public clouds, or in some independent data center. So for me, it's more like of this perspective.
Cool. Anthony, do you want to add something?
Yeah, from the point of view of the end users, I would like to invite everyone to remember that the way data is handled now, centralized, like with two companies, service companies, is not the way it should be. It's the way it had to be, just because there were technical limitations and there was no way just to do anything in social media or basically anything you can think of in a way that was not centralized until a few years back. Another question is, there's a turning point. The technologies exist. People don't, the majority of people doesn't know about it, but technologies exist for people to provide data to companies so that they can process it, exploit it for themselves, or render you a service as a user, and in a way that you can keep the sovereignty of that, and in a way that the company isn't making money behind the back, that you are actually gaining the benefits from the data that you share. It's just a simple change of mindset that has to happen. This is not the way it should be. I don't think it is really a question of whether we should care about sovereignty. It's just sovereignty is the way it should be. It should have been this way, but it was not possible. Now it is possible. So what do we do about it?
And do users care?
So I was expecting to. Those are the questions where I get to say we as Web3 providers or as developers, we need to set a good example. For example, at iExec, we provide developer tools to build applications where, I don't know, for example, you can send emails to your users without ever revealing the email address. So if you're a builder, I can give you my email address. It's encrypted on my computer or on my phone. You can use it as long as I want to, but you will never see the email address. You cannot send it to everyone, and no one else can see it. That exists already. Right? It's happening. And you can do the same with your photo, your ID, your children's names or whatever. So there is no excuse right now. What you're trying to do is to make this as easy to use as possible so that there is no more excuse from the developers. And so, more beautiful applications and platforms exist and people start using it. So that's what you're trying to do, outreaching and evangelization, basically. There's a long way to go, but I think I'll bring there. Yeah.
Maybe don't necessarily want to just willy-nilly hand all of the information that they need to have that utility that's valuable to you to them in a way that maybe isn't retractable, right? You can't necessarily take away that permission, right? So data sovereignty is going to be critical for creating functional AI agent ecosystems in ways that people are okay with interacting.
Playing quickly devil's advocate. Usually all these technologies are being built with the best interest of the user in mind, right? Because you build them for convenience, you build them to automate things, to wow users, like just thinking about ChatGPT, what it has done now over the last 2 years. But the same holds true also for technologies like clouds and so on and so forth. The problem is that most of the time these companies introducing those technologies do have shareholders, and those will push for shareholder values. So no longer the user is in the center with its needs and desires and wishes, but it's really the user suddenly becomes the product of it. Do you see the same level of, let's call it enshittification as well? Is this a threat also to decentralized systems that have beacons and so on and so forth?
I hope that I guess I anticipate that the way that agents will kind of infiltrate our existence will be more from kind of a small language model perspective. I don't necessarily think that agents will be a representation of kind of ChatGPT, right? I think they're going to become much more specialized, a lot more kind of built in startup ecosystems as opposed to massive corporate ecosystems. So I hope that they're actually slightly more decentralized than the large language model ecosystems, because it would suck if the kind of the agentic ecosystem was dominated by the same players.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Totally agree with what Mark said. I think it's very exciting to see the trend of small and smaller models, smaller large language models, as we would describe it, right? So I think we'll see a trend where a lot of these very specialized models are just going to run on the edge. And then at the same time, advancements around privacy enhancing technologies that includes On the cryptography side, MPC and FHE, and on the hardware side, trusted execution environments, they will enable you to then also run bigger models, which you might not be able to run on the edge, but at the same time, without you having to sacrifice all of your sense information to run those models, right? So I think the combination of them is going to be really interesting. And I agree, I think we'll see smaller specialized models, and then the key will be the effective orchestration among them for the right use case, right? So based on the prompt, identifying what's the right model to run as much as possible on the edge, because that's arguably the most secure way of doing it. But then if you need a cloud similar to Apple Intelligence, actually, then you need to outsource that to ideally cryptography-based solutions. And if that's maybe too slow at this point, then relying on secure enclaves. So that's the first point. A couple of other points you raised there that I think is important to mention. Yes, there will be probably competition nonetheless for shareholder maximization around some centralized companies, but it's the job of all of us, right, as an industry, to create alternative solutions that are actually better. And better we can, describe in different ways. But one of the things that is exciting is attribution, right? Enabling people to actually earn from their contribution, right? This is something that we have not seen yet, right? It's not something that exists today. And I don't think people are actually aware of how valuable a lot of the data is that we have today. Mark mentioned it. Today, everything is trained on public data and then synthetic data that is, trained on top of public data. But we're actually not tapping into the private data of all of us individuals, and we're not tapping into the private data of enterprises, which is massive, the amount of data that's sitting there underutilized, right? If we can create a system where we can tap into that data and enable each and every contributor to earn from that, that's a real game changer. And I think there's a lot of potential for people to actually want to shift towards that as well proactively, because all of a sudden, there's a new monetization opportunity. There's a fairer, more democratized opportunity to contribute very valuable data.
And I think probably while you're stating these points, what came to my mind is actually you don't necessarily only have monetary incentives, but think about health data, right? If you have a specific disease that only a few people have, being able to share your data with those people and help those people and get help could also be a huge incentive, basically, for you to be part of that consortium of data.
100%. And
yeah, I also wanted to add that it's not like, I think the more and more shift that, could happen technically already is the shift from like sharing the raw data versus sharing some, there is like ZK proofs that can attest to certain properties without revealing anything. There's like FHE schemas that allow you to make computation for encrypted data without revealing it. So there is more and more technology getting more and more mature and more efficient to not only, like, you don't need to actually share the data itself. So you have like a little bit of a shield there, but you can like attest to certain properties here and there. And I think this is, there's also experimentation around these different attestation mechanics without revealing the information. And things like health data, for instance, that's super sensitive, is probably maybe one of the things that could be like very useful there, because you don't want to reveal your medical history to anybody, but maybe some properties might be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone wants to add something to that?
Yeah, of course. I agree entirely with everything that's been said, and I would also like to pinpoint that I think one thing that slows down adoption when people interact with web services is also the fear of what's happening, not to their personal data, but to anything related to their blockchain identity. And so I think as service providers and as developers, we also have to make an effort to make these services not only secure, but reassuring. And one thing that we see that is doing the adoption of our own product is that people come not with their real wallets, not with the one that hold the cryptos, but with the ones that are empty and just here to. So basically, when you want to interact with some service, you create a wallet just for that service, you put a little bit of coin on it, and that's it. But your actual wallet, but somewhere else. And that's annoying for some of our products. And so we're trying to work on this. And so we're selling, blends of MPCs or noise proofs and things like that to really sort of even on the blockchain, just share the little bit of information that you need and the whole thing. And I think that's important.
Cool. And yeah, one of the things that you just mentioned that also now popped into my mind is that these are now all projects that have some extent found a product market fit, but are willing to basically also maximize that, right? And for Web2 companies, there is a ton of analytics, A/B testing, every possible thing, right? And now you mentioned that you would like to actually see more, but you can't because users are aware of these facts and are shielding themselves to reveal more. Isn't this putting you guys also to a disadvantage when it comes to adoption compared to maybe an alternative that is then, let's say, not playing by those rules? This goes to everyone.
That shouldn't be looking at me for this one. I don't have too much to add to that one. Sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm constructing my thought as I'm going, but I think that this is disadvantage for us in Web3 because it is always easier technically to just centralize everything and to keep under control. So every time you try to do the right thing, every time you try to get back sovereignty or security or sophisticated, you are making your only life difficult. And this is hard, but this is our job. And if we didn't want it, we would just do just Web2 and that's it. That being said, the landscape is full of very exciting projects. There's just one I'm thinking of that's launching this week. It is building on iExec, and it's called Hushdrop. The idea is you interact with the protocol, and there's going to be an airdrop. But usually when you interact with protocol, you don't use your actual wallets. So how do we give the biggest whales the airdrop or the most important users the airdrop without them reading the wallets? And so this project Hushdrop. Basically, it allows you to go to a ring signature scheme with your actual wallet off chain, be a part of that ring, get a proof, designer's proof that you own a big wallet, and then you go to iExec on our platform with your usual wallet. That proof, that is a proof that you own a big wallet, but that's not your big wallet, and then you get your airdrop. And so this way, using a blend of especially execution environments, so we use IntelliGX and ring signature, which is a designer's code scheme. We can just link your public wallet inside your precious private wallet, but that's just linking without linking. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, just like basically proving.
Yes, but you can see how the value is high, but technologically it's just so much more complex than just saying, you know what, if you have like 10 billion or whatever, just show it to me. I give you the NFT, right? That doesn't work.
I see that we're running out of time, but I still would want from each and every one of you a just as closing remarks, maybe for the developers that are in the audience. What are the tools that you want them to take away from this discussion that they can use from your specific protocol and project?
Sure. Yeah. So at Nillon, we're building, as a DePIN computation network, so it enables you to store and also process sensitive data in a fully privacy-pursuing manner without anyone ever seeing anything about the data. And the really exciting thing about it is that it's really expanding the design space of decentralized infrastructure as a whole, right? And particularly in DePIN, where we deal with real-world use cases, real-world data, data security, data privacy are relevant in a lot of these use cases, right? And we're building this decentralized, just minimized infrastructure where you can modularly determine how you want your data to be stored. That's the vision, right? And what hardware those nodes shall run, where they're geographically based. So giving you that ability to really craft your cluster of nodes, which can then store and compute on the data, is, I think, really exciting. It will open up a lot of new use cases that are just not possible today given the sensitivity of the data. In terms of how can people interact with the Nillon network, so please check out our website. We do have our documentation there. It's essentially enabling you to get up and running quite quickly. We have an SDK with different clients, JavaScript client, Python client, others. There's the Nillon network itself, which obviously consists of those nodes store and process the information. And then via the clients, you can essentially interact with the network to store secrets, to retrieve them, update them, and also to run computations on top of that without ever anyone seeing anything about it. So really excited about that expansion. I think it's a huge step forward for Web3, for crypto, for decentralized infrastructure. And we already see some really exciting use cases coming out of that.
Cool. Thanks, Igor.
Yeah, one more thing to add here is that, again, as I told, that ZK technology is progressing quite, very much, especially in terms of general computation, in ZK VMs and ZK VMs. And this is, I think, opens up quite a lot of very interesting use cases when maybe you can have your own a private chain that nobody sees at all apart from certain parties, but then this private chain has public proofs that nothing weird is happening in this chain, right? And these proofs are publicly auditable. So these kind of solutions, I think, are very interesting, again, use cases in real world when you might want something like that. And if you want to try out some of this, you can come to Gateway FM or one of our products, Presto. It's pre-configured, of course, or you can just try again system like CDK or some other ZK like Linea was there. We'll also work with them a little bit, and just try, because it's super cool that you can basically prove validity of arbitrary computation essentially.